As the 21st century began, human evolution was at a turning point. Natural selection, the process by which the strongest, the smartest, the fastest reproduced in greater numbers than the rest, a process which had once favored the noblest traits of man, now began to favor different traits. Most science fiction of the day predicted a future that was more civilized and more intelligent. But as time went on, things seemed to be heading in the opposite direction, a dumbing down. How did this happen? Evolution does not necessarily reward intelligence. With no natural predators to thin the herd, it began to simply reward those who reproduced the most and left the intelligent to become an endangered species.
Having kids is such an important decision.
We're just waiting for the right time. It's not something you want to rush into, obviously.
No way.
I'm pregnant again!
I got too many damn kids. Thought you was on the pill or some.
Hell no!
Must have been thinking of Brittany.
Brittany? No, you didn't. There's no way we could have a child now. Not with the market the way it is, no.
God, no. That just wouldn't make any sense.
Come on over here, bitch! He don't care about you!
Yeah, well, there must be something he likes over here.
You mean nothing to me, baby? It wasn't me! It wasn't me!
Well, we finally decided to have children, and I'm not pointing fingers, but it's not going well.
And this is helping.
I'm just saying that before I have in vitro, maybe you should be willing to...
It's always me, right?
Well, it's not my sperm count.
I guess they give you some chemical restraints, huh? Drugs! What did they give you? Thorazine? Haldol? How much? How much? Learn your drugs. Know your doses. It's elementary.
I need to make a telephone call.
Telephone call? A telephone call? That's communication with the outside world. Doctor's discretion. Hey, if all of these nuts could just make phone calls, it could spread. Insanity oozing through telephone cables, oozing to the ears of all these poor, sane people, infecting them. Wackos everywhere, plague of madness.
Come on, let's go.
In fact, very few, Jim, very few of us here are actually mentally ill. I'm not saying you're not mentally ill. For all I know, you're crazy as a loon. But that's not why you're here. That's not why you're here. It's not why you're here. You're here because of the system. There's the television. It's all right there. All right there. Look, listen, kneel, pray. Commercials. Not productive anymore, at least to make things anymore. It's all automated. What are we for then? We're consumers, Jim. Okay, buy a lot of stuff. You're a good citizen. But if you don't buy a lot of stuff, if you don't, what are you then, I ask you? What? Mentally ill. Back, Jim, back. If you don't buy things, toilet paper, new cars, computerized blenders, electrically operated sexual devices, stereo systems with brain-implanted headphones, screwdrivers, miniature built-in radar devices, voice-activated computers.
Take it easy, Jeffrey. Be calm.
Right. That's right. You're a very attractive woman. So, if you want to watch a particular television program, say, All My Children or something, you go to the charge nurse, tell the day, the time, the show you want to see is on. But you have to tell her before the show is scheduled to be on. There was this guy, and he was always requesting shows that had already played. Yes, no. You have to tell her before. He couldn't quite grasp the idea that the charge nurse couldn't make it be yesterday. He couldn't turn back time, thank you, Einstein. Now, he was nuts. He was a fruitcake, Jim.
That's it, Jeffrey. You're gonna get a shot. I warned you.
Right. I got a little carried away explaining the inner workings of the institution to Jim.
Hey, yo, right now, you basing your eyes on Papoose, and you locked into truthisScary.com. Be aware.
Your source for alternative news and celebrity views. It's truthisScary.com. Log on and be aware.
I would have to say one of them, you know what I'm saying, definitely, I would have to say the assassination of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. You know, the consistency of assassinations in all of our great leaders. I would like to know more about that. It's not a coincidence, you know. They built more jails and prisons than schools. That's frightening. Oh, I don't think it's a coincidence for the simple fact of the truth in it. You know what I mean? It's right in front of your face. Why would you build more prisons than places to, why would you build more places to incarcerate somebody and lock them up than you would build for somebody to go and learn? It's obvious this is the places you would rather them to be at. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. I definitely think it's a nutrition problem in our society. You know, if you look at some of these places, they sell fruit and drugs in the same store together nowadays. You know what I'm saying? That never was like that at one time. I think it's a nutrition problem when a lot of black people die at young ages. A lot of us have cancer, heart problems, you know what I'm saying? Especially the heart problem with the cholesterol, high blood pressure. We definitely not eating right.
Do you think it's a conspiracy?
Do I think it's a conspiracy? Yes, I think it's a conspiracy, definitely. I definitely think it's a conspiracy that every corner or other corner in the ghetto has liquor stores. You know what I'm saying? It's not like that in other neighborhoods. Definitely. I think AIDS is a part of population control. You know what I'm saying? I think AIDS is man-made.
AIDS?
Yes, AIDS, HIV virus, definitely.
Can you continue or elaborate a little more?
Yeah, I can elaborate. Basically, AIDS is a man-made disease. You know what I'm saying? Simple and plain. You know what I'm saying? They came up with a lot of different theories as to where they said it started in Africa and all of this nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Then first they said it came because men was having sex with a monkey, which is impossible, you know what I'm saying, to happen. Then they said it started in Africa. It did not start in Africa. It's a known fact that if you analyze it, it's basically something that shuts down your immune system. You understand what I'm saying? And when they give you surgery, you know, when people go into surgery for different things, they have to suppress your immune system so you won't fight off the things that they're putting into your body. You understand what I'm saying? So that shows you right there that they know how to control the immune system. But after surgery, what they do? They give you something to trigger it back, to kick it back up. You know what I'm saying? So that's what basically, I'm just pointing it out to show you, you know, one of the things that proves that AIDS is man-made. Definitely man-made. It's about rich and poor. Yes, I do. Because that's real deep, man. 9/11, I could go on and on with that, you know what I'm saying? But one of the things I'm gonna say is that just look at how the buildings fell. You know what I'm saying? It didn't fall as if, you know, the plane hit the building and the building fell. No, it fell exactly how a building falls when they do what? Controlled demolition. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna just point that out for you. And 4,000 people didn't come to work that day. I'm not going to say who them people was, but 4,000 people didn't come to work on that particular day. And it's not, once again, it's not a coincidence. That's all I'm going to say right now. I mean, basically, you know, one of the things that, you know, the guys from Iraq and overseas and all that, one of the things they say about Americans is Americans can't go to war with them because Americans are afraid to die. So just to answer your question, you know, I'm prepared because I'm not afraid to die. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not afraid to die, you know what I mean? I would love to be here for my family, and I want to be here, and I plan on being here for my family. But any situation that presents itself, I'm not afraid to die. So, you know, I don't live in fear of things of that nature, but I do have knowledge, and I am aware of it. Yeah, I think the Illuminati is real. It's all about rich getting richer and poor getting poorer. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these dudes sat down and had talks with, you know, with higher force to do certain things, you know what I mean, to keep the poor people more poor and the rich richer. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things involving the whole Illuminati situation, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I believe it's real. Yeah, I mean, they have control, you know what I mean? Just when you're using the word like control, we go back to things like population control. So, you know what I'm saying? I would say, yes, they have control. It's here. It's here. It's here now because basically, you know, peace to all the gods and the earths out there. In the 90s, they was telling us basically that, and I can even go back to the AIDS situation. You know what I'm saying? Since you asked me about, you know, do I think it's man-made or something to that degree you asked me. In the 90s, I'm talking about in the 90s, I had the knowledge of everything that's going on right now. You know what I mean? They even said that, you know, eventually money is going to be gone. We're going to be using more plastic. I knew about this in the 90s. And just to elaborate on the AIDS situation, you know, the reason why they created AIDS because they knew. They said by the year 2000, or that's why they were saying, oh, the world's going to be over. It basically was a new world order coming into effect. That's one of the things they meant. But they said there wasn't going to be enough fuel. You see, we had the gas crisis. It wasn't going to be enough fuel, enough money. Look, recession is going on, and they had to get rid of they had to create something to get rid of the less desirable people. You understand what I'm saying? When they say the less desirable people, that's who? The poor people. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why they put things like AIDS out there, HIV, to control the population. Yeah, definitely. You know what I'm saying? And your original question was New World Order. New World Order is definitely in full effect. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things that's going on, they're keeping track of what we're doing at all times. You know, just, you know, your whereabouts. You got OnStar, Easy Pass, all of this GPS. You know what I mean? All this stuff is keeping track. All these different tracking devices. You know what I'm saying? All our people being incarcerated, falsely accused. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of different things. But the New World Order is here now. A lot of stuff that's going on now was predicted in the 90s. New World Order, Illuminati, I've been knew about all that. A lot of cats are jumping on the bandwagon, and they putting a lot of these rappers up there and saying, oh, he's a part of the Illuminati, oh, he's this, but they don't really have the knowledge to understand that we living in those times now. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, definitely I think the New World Order is real. You know, if you had the vegetables and I had the bread, we would do what? We would trade. You know what I'm saying? Simple. You know what I mean? At one time, it was enough dollars, you know what I mean, in our economy as it was gold bars in Fort Knox. Now it's not. The American dollar is not worth it. You know what I'm saying? So what is money really? It's nothing. I think the world would be a better place. No.
No?
Hell no. That was fake, man. Look at all of the stuff they got now in these movies, man. You know what I'm saying? Now they make it to us like it's something new, but they've been had that technology. People was watching that on TV. Oh, he's on the moon. Get out of here with that. To be religious is to be serious. You know what I'm saying? I'm religious about what I'm saying right now. I'm serious about it.
But that's as far as you can take it. I
mean, just to define the word. You know what I mean? To answer your question, to be religious is to be serious. So, you know, whatever is the God of your understanding, I don't knock nobody for, you know, praising and praying to the God of their understanding, because that helps them maintain their family and keep civilization in their life. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't knock nobody. You know what I'm saying? But to be religious is definitely to be serious. Shout out to Kevin Reese. He wanted me to speak about harp. I mean, definitely. I think a lot of people should take out the time to look more into harp. I do believe that harp caused earthquakes, you know what I'm saying? Basically, to a lot of y'all who doesn't know what harp is, it's basically, I'm going to give y'all a brief on it. It's basically a large field of antennas and that sits in a field, an open field. I think it's in Alaska, if I'm not mistaken. And basically, when pointed at the sky, it can move the clouds, manipulate the weather. When pointed at the ground, it can cause earthquakes. You know what I'm saying? And also when pointed at people, it can actually make you sick, make you feel nauseous, control your bowel movement, and things of that nature. And if you analyze the Gulf War they had with Saddam Hussein, you know, they was ready to go to war, and eventually all of his soldiers came out with their hands on their head because they used harp in that particular war. You understand what I'm saying? And it puts you in a, you know, surrendering position. It makes you, you know what I mean, want to surrender. You know what I mean? And like I said, it control your bowel movement, cause nausea, and a lot of things of that nature. And if you look at all of these hurricanes, they definitely can manipulate the weather. You know, move the clouds and manipulate the weather. point at the ground, cause earthquakes. Definitely, I believe HAARP is real.
Going into the dollar, so that's enough to hit confidence.
You know, Jeff, we had guests earlier in the week who had told us at least you're getting back to the point where you can start to look at fundamentals, and that's good news. What happened?
I think you're in a liquidation phase. I think Kirsten had it exactly right. I think there's a bunch of wrong-footed moves by Hank Paulson and the Illuminati of the country, if you will, and I think we're paying for it right now.
You're managed by the company. And this surprised me. I only found this out today. You're managed by the company. You look after S Club 7. You used to look after the Spice Girls, Simon Fuller. Have they tried to mould you in any way, though, if people ask you to do things to change the way you look or speak or behave?
Yeah, one of them tried to mould me into a big triangle shape, and I went, no. Nah, you know, I've got my own style. I've got my own style, and I wrote my own songs, and, you know, if someone has so much of something already, there's very little you can add. Yeah. You know what I like about you as well is the way you sound so common. No, because I am common, and, you know, it's like, you know, it's so refreshing to hear someone who isn't speaking like they've taken elocution lessons. Yeah. Yeah. They gave me elocution lessons, but they kind of... They didn't stick? Off my back, yeah.
Right. My name's Brian Harvey. A few years ago, I had the #1 record, yeah? Sold 1 million copies in this country. Over the past 15 years, I've been treated like a complete cunt. I've got no fucking heating, I'm getting abused by the police, I'm getting abused by the court system, I'm getting abused by the CPS, and I've fucking had enough of all of you. Come this way. A million sales, yeah? What's this? Do you like the music industry, mate? You shouldn't, because it's full of fucking nonsense. Yeah, and this is what I think of your fucking music industry. Good, there's a bin up. B17, 1 million sales. This is what it fucking means. That's what I think of your fucking music industry. I'm a peaceful person, and I pick my rubbish up. Fucking littering. Fuck you. Fuck you, yeah? I can be angry and fucking tidy. You done for littering, boy?
What about it?
What denomination was she?
What about it? Oh, you should read Dreamland by this PI reporter. I wrote this book about her. It's really good. She was, you know her story, don't you? She was an actress that she was kind of a foul-mouthed person,
What's a
you
poem
know,
she
and she hated the whole Hollywood scene, and she expressed her hatred for them publicly, and so, and she also, when she was like, I think she was 15, she entered this essay contest when she was living here in Seattle, entitled "God is Dead," and a lot of people accused her of being a communist. And then she went to New York and was a part of this acting troupe, and so it supposedly had communist ties too. And so then there's this big conspiracy amongst a judge, a very well-known, prominent judge here in Seattle, and a bunch of other people who had ties with Hollywood, and they basically just set her up and ruined her life. You know, they had some pictures taken of her when she was arrested for drunk driving, and it was a big, huge scandal, and she eventually was sent to a mental institution and given a lobotomy and raped every day for years, and just totally abused, and ended up like working at a Four Seasons restaurant alone and dying by herself.
There's a Bainbridge Island. That's where she was institutionalized, right over there. It was just all broken down, like an infirmary there.
For years, every night there were lines of custodians, friends, and people, you know, part of the staff who would wait in line to rape her every day. You know, she went through a lot of shit. And it just disgusts me, you know, to know that there are some of the people that are part of that conspiracy are living here in Seattle in their comfortable, cushy little homes with their families. And, it's 40 years after the fact, and it's just
He's a just God,
makes me
not
want
a
to
fair
kill
one.
him. Yeah.
That's what the Christians say.
Citizens.
God, why was there Auschwitz? Well, I'm a just God, not a fair one.
And I'm coming with you.
Excuse me?
You see this? Randall Flynn had a ring with the exact same eye on it. If he's one of these guys, they're half as bad as what he was. We're all in trouble. And your family could use my help.
Mr. Jones owned a cotton plantation and many slaves. One day he was talking to the owner of the plantation next to his, and Mr. Jones was lamenting the fact that times were tough. He was having to work his slaves harder than ever, and was having trouble with some of them being disobedient or trying to run away. The other plantation owner said he knew someone who could help.
Day 1.
One day Mr. Jones called his slaves together so a man named Mr. Smith could talk to them. Before beginning, Mr. Smith whispered to Mr. Jones, "Whatever I say, do not contradict me or interfere, and I promise you your slave troubles will end." "My name is Mr. Smith," he said to the slaves, "and this may be the happiest day of your lives. From today forward, you will no longer be slaves, but free men." Mr. Jones was so shocked he started to step forward, but Mr. Smith gestured for him to remain silent. He did, only because the other plantation owner had spoken so highly of Mr. Smith's skills. "You are no longer the property of Mr. Jones," Mr. Smith continued. "You are free. No more would you be forced to labor for the benefit of Mr. Jones. Now you can work for yourselves." Now the slaves were all murmuring and looking at each other. Many were smiling, many were looking puzzled. "In fact, you are now free to leave the plantation whenever you want," Mr. Smith said. "However, since we are surrounded by other plantations, if you leave, some other plantation owner will likely claim you as his own the moment you set foot on his property. So I urge you not to risk your newfound freedom by doing something so foolish. Instead, I suggest that you stay here, no longer as slaves, but as willing participants and part owners of this plantation. Yes, this is now your plantation." Mr. Jones bit his tongue to keep from objecting. "For now, we might as well leave Mr. Jones in charge," said Mr. Smith, "since he is the only one with any experience at running a plantation, which is quite a complicated thing to manage. But he will no longer be your master, but just another worker on the plantation. In fact, he will now be using his organizational and management skills to serve you. Whatever problems you may have had with him before, you are now all equals, and you need each other to make this work. If we all cooperate and work together, we can all reap the benefits together. In honor of this happy occasion, I present you this new symbol of togetherness and cooperation, this flag, which shall be the emblem of the new, free Jones plantation." He held up the new flag, but most of those listening were still too amazed to respond. "And this shall be our motto," Mr. Smith announced. "We work together as free men for our mutual benefit, pledging our allegiance to the Jones plantation, which stands for prosperity, liberty, and justice for all. To celebrate, everyone has the rest of the day off. Enjoy your freedom, do as you please, and be back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, so that we may begin work on this great and noble new endeavor as equal free men." Finally convinced that Mr. Smith was serious, the former slaves applauded and cheered.
Day 2.
"We all want this plantation to do well," Mr. Smith said at the beginning of the next meeting, "so we can all share in the benefits. We all know that it takes a lot of effort to make a cotton plantation work. Just because you're all free doesn't mean you can stop working. In fact, since you're now working for yourselves, I expect you to work even harder than ever before, but now with pride and joy, knowing that you're working for yourselves. Of course, there still have to be rules. If everyone just does whatever he wants, the plantation won't produce anything. This experiment will fail, and we'll all starve. You should be thankful that Mr. Jones has agreed to stay on to lend his knowledge and skills to this endeavor, and I trust you will all do your own part to make this work. Several of you have been chosen to act as project supervisors to manage different aspects of the operation, to make sure everyone is doing his assigned job, to make sure that the rules are followed, and so on. The rest of you may head out to the fields to start your first day of work as free men."
Day 3.
The next morning, Mr. Smith had a grim expression on his face as the daily meeting began. "I have an unpleasant duty to do today," he said. "Yesterday, Charles was caught keeping some of the cotton he picked, presumably to sell for his own personal profit. That is against the rules. That is stealing. For that, Charles must be punished." 2 men tied Charles to the whipping post. "I take no joy in this," Mr. Smith continued, "but you must understand, if we do not maintain order, if we do not have rules that we all abide by, then the plantation will fail, and we will all suffer." The whip cracked against Charles' back. "But if we all pitch in for the common good, then we can all prosper. Being free doesn't mean you should be selfish and greedy. We must each do our assigned duties and obey the rules, and then we can all benefit, and each of you will receive your appropriate share of the profits." A young man named Samuel stepped forward. "But if you and Mr. Jones decide the rules and whip us if we disobey, how is that any different from what we had before?" "How can you say that?" Mr. Smith asked. "I'm shocked. You were a slave before, and now you're free. Things still need to be managed and organized by those best qualified to do so. Do you know how to run a plantation, Samuel?" "Well, no," he answered. "But if we're free, why do we get no say in what the rules are and how things work?" "I'm surprised at your ingratitude," Mr. Smith answered. "None of you know how a plantation is run, so you're in no position to be making decisions about how things are done here. You don't seem to appreciate all the things that Mr. Jones provides for you, from protecting you from all the outside threats that you know nothing about, those who would come here, capture and enslave you if not for Mr. Jones' protection, to making sure that you all have food and housing, tools to work with, that you're cared for when sick and injured, and so on. There wouldn't be a plantation at all, no cotton to pick, no land to plant and harvest, if not for him. You should be grateful that he's made possible the level of comfort you now have. Your lives would be far worse if not for him. Nevertheless, as free and equal participants in this endeavor, from now on at each meeting, any worker may have 2 minutes to ask questions or voice suggestions or complaints." With that, the workers all seemed satisfied and headed out again to the fields to pick the cotton.
Day 4.
"I have a big announcement," Mr. Smith said as the daily meeting began. "Mr. Jones' cousin is here, and not just to visit and see how our project is coming along. It has been decided that from now on, you will be deciding who will manage the plantation. Of course, this job can't be done by just anyone, but every 3 months we will have a special meeting at which all the workers will vote on whether we think Mr. Jones should run the plantation or whether we think his cousin, Mr. Johnson, should run the plantation. That means that ultimately you are in charge because you will be deciding which man you want running things on your behalf. If you don't like the way things are being managed, you now have the power to change it." Amazed and pleased, the workers headed out again to the fields to pick the cotton. Days passed, months passed, a year passed, and the plantation continued to operate as before. Sometimes Mr. Jones was in charge, sometimes Mr. Johnson was in charge, but the day-to-day routine stayed exactly the same. The workers worked hard, long hours every day, and still had little to show for it. Every day the meeting would begin with them all reciting the Jones Plantation motto, "We work together as free men for our mutual benefit, pledging our allegiance to the Jones Plantation, which stands for prosperity, liberty, and justice for all." One day Mr. Smith announced, "Samuel is asked to say a few words this morning, and whatever the rest of us may think of his ideas and opinions, we are all free here, and that means we are all allowed to speak our minds. So, Samuel, you have 2 minutes. Begin." Samuel stepped forward, looking scared. "I was excited when all this started," he began, glancing nervously at Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones. "But don't you all see what's happened here? Nothing has changed. We're all still slaves." There were grumbles of disagreement from the crowd. "They tell us what to do and whip us if we don't. They still make all the rules and punish us if we disobey. They let us make suggestions and complain about things, but they never really change anything. They let us choose between Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson, but what's the difference? The situation stays the same. We do all of the work and they take as much as they want and decide how much they'll let us keep. They live in luxury, made rich by the cotton we pick. We do all the work and have to build our own huts, grow our own food, and take care of ourselves. They leave us just enough that we don't revolt or run away. This is not freedom. We're all still slaves. They've only changed the words they use, but nothing else has changed. They say we're all free and equal, but we're not. They command and we obey. That's not freedom. That's not equality. They say we're free to leave, but all that means is that we're free to be someone else's slave. Why should we work or obey the rules? We didn't agree to this. They made the system. They forced it on us. They control and rob us and call it freedom. They've deceived you into thinking that being able to choose which slave master you'll work for is the same as being free. It's not. Open your eyes. If you keep what you produce, they call it stealing. When they take what you produce, they call it sharing and fair distribution. Can't you see that this is all? Your time is up, Samuel, Mr. Smith announced calmly. At his gesture, 2 supervisors grabbed Samuel by the arms and led him to the whipping post. I'm sorry, Samuel, but you've broken the rules. There are rules against encouraging others not to work and encouraging others to break the rules. You're only hurting all of us with your discontentment and your complaining and your disobedience. The whip fell and Samuel let out a grunt. Without rules, without order, all would be lost. Without law, there would be chaos. We can't just behave as wild animals, each doing whatever he pleases. We must all follow the plan and all do our duty for the betterment of everyone. And those who do not must be punished. The whip fell again and blood flowed freely from Samuel's back. Samuel, it is you who are stealing from the others. When you don't do your assigned work, you are making more work for others. When you disobey the rules, it is you who are endangering the future of everyone else here. You are the thief. You are the criminal. You are the one trying to destroy the arrangement that keeps us all safe and prosperous. At every lash of the whip, the other workers cheered louder and louder, some yelling curses at Samuel. Being spoiled and selfish, you complain about everything, talking as if you're oppressed. But you are the one ruining things. You are the one keeping us from being all we could be. It is your greed and your rebelliousness that is hurting all of us. They all play by the rules, Mr. Smith said, gesturing at the others. What makes you think that you don't have to? You think you're above the law? There were loud yells of agreement as the whip fell again. We must maintain order, Mr. Smith proclaimed, to make this plantation great, to make it so that we can all be happy and prosperous. To have the society we want, there have to be rules. We all have to contribute our fair share to this great endeavor, and we cannot tolerate actions and attitudes that seek to undermine the amazing things that together as free men we have achieved and will continue to achieve. Mr. Jones was smiling as he gave Mr. Smith a pat on the back. The crowd was cheering so loudly that none of them had noticed that Samuel had died.
What you have been taught about government and politics is no more accurate or reasonable than what Mr. Smith taught the slaves. If you're ready to look through the veil of rhetoric and propaganda to see the reality beneath, get a copy of The Most Dangerous Superstition. It will change the way you see the world.